Good morning and welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Kat, and if you're new here, we've been baking our way through Some of My Best Friends Are Cookies by Emelia Jackson. Today's recipe is chocolate hazelnut sandwiches. And the very first step that we need to do is to toast some hazelnuts to make a toasted hazelnut meal. So I am not sure if I have enough. We need 125 grams, and I've only got half a packet left, so I am not going to have enough. So I've got 68 grams, but I do have some hazelnut meal as well. So what I am going to do is I am going to toast the, that doesn't look like a hazelnut. It was just a funny shape. I'm going to toast the 68 grams that I have, and I'm going to make up the rest out of hazelnut meal. These need to toast in an oven 13 minutes at 160 degrees. So in here we need, what did I say? 68. So that is 80, 102, 125. So we need 90 grams of brown sugar, and 125 grams of butter. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And we're just going to mix this together until it's just combined. We don't want to beat it till it's creamy or light, just until it's smooth. So to this, we're going to add 170 grams of plain flour, a half teaspoon of salt, and we've got our 58 grams of store-bought hazelnut meal, which I will add now, and we're just going to wait for the rest of our homemade toasted hazelnut meal before we mix this together to form a dough. And we're just going to let these cool before we grind them up. Smells delicious. I'm just going to check that I still have 68 grams in case I need to add a little bit more. 67. I think that's close enough. And we're just going to mix this together. So we need to roll out our dough, and I am going to roll it out between two pieces of baking paper. It doesn't say that you need to do that. I am just going to, because the dough feels fairly soft and I think it'll be easier to manage. And we are rolling it out to 6 millimeters or a quarter of an inch. And I've got my very fancy approximately 6 centimeter cutter. It's actually 5.5. I did measure it, but I figure that's close enough. And we're supposed to get 14 finished biscuits. So I'm looking for 28 circles. You can definitely smell the hazelnuts. It smells really nice. So I've got 29 and one that's a bit small, and these are going to bake for 14 minutes, 12 to 14 minutes. I forgot to mention that my oven was still set to 160 degrees, and that's the temperature that these cookies bake at. So our second batch is in the oven, and we're going to let those cool on the trays for 10 minutes and then transfer them to a wire rack to cool the rest of the way. So all of our biscuits are out of the oven, so we're going to work on our filling while they cool. So we need 100 mils of cream, and 200 grams of chocolate. We need a quarter teaspoon of salt, and a half teaspoon of vanilla, and we need to microwave this in 30-second increments until it is melted and combined. So this has been a minute and a half, and I've still got a few lumps in there, so I'm just going to stir this for a bit and try and get it all melted. It might need another 30 seconds, but we're just going to give it a go. All right, so this does look pretty good. So we're just going to let this cool to room temperature. It's only slightly warm, so it shouldn't take too long. And then we're going to fill our biscuits. While I wait for that to cool, I'm just going to lay my biscuits out. They're mostly cool to the touch. There's still a couple that are very slightly warm, but I'm going to lay them out to make it easier to fill them. So I've got a star tip, and I have a feeling that this is going to go everywhere. This is too thin. All right, maybe it's still a little too warm. Friends, this ganache took more than an hour to cool down enough that it was a good piping consistency, including being in the fridge for 15 minutes. So I would definitely recommend, if you are going to make these biscuits, that you make the ganache as soon as you have made the dough and leave it to cool as you roll out the biscuits and bake the biscuits and leave the biscuits to cool. Because frankly, I am way too impatient to take the time to wait for this ganache to cool down naturally after the biscuits are baked. All right, so the ganache has cooled down to 20 degrees. So I think the takeaway from this is you can't trust just touching the bowl because it felt not warm when I was touching the bowl. You have to actually let it get to be under 20 degrees. So we'll try again. I'm going to pop these in the fridge. Finish coming up. Okay, so these have been in the fridge for about half an hour and the ganache has set up nice and firm. So if I squish it now, it doesn't all ooze everywhere. I've got my husband here. He's going to have a taste test with me. So would you like this nice looking one? And I will try this wonky one that the biscuits are different sizes and it's all a mess. These are very chocolatey, but I really like them. What do you think?
Quite rich.
Mm. I did make these with dark chocolate and the recipe suggested milk chocolate. So they are maybe a bit richer and less sweet than they would be if I had followed the recipe exactly. But I had plenty of dark chocolate melts and I didn't have any milk melts at the moment. You think it's better with the dark? Mm. These are really, really nice. I really like them. Thanks for being here today as we made some chocolate hazelnut sandwich biscuits. I will keep these in the fridge to keep the ganache nice and firm, particularly because it's got cream in it. I know that it is supposed to be able to be kept out at room temperature, but I feel like they will last longer if I keep them in the fridge. And also, they won't be directly in the kids' line of sight every time they walk into the kitchen, which will help them last longer. If you would like to watch another one of my videos, I will pop one here that you can enjoy between now and my next upload. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. I can't wait to see you next time. Bye for now.